Hello everyone. Today we'll be discussing rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis and basically rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis is one of the cause a patient will present to us with a rapidly progressing renal failure within days to weeks. Okay, so whenever we want to know whether this these rapidly progressing renal failure is because of RPGN or not, we need to perform certain tests, and it is important to rule out because every cause has its own specific treatment, right? So I hope you got this two terms, RPGN and RPRF, that is rapidly progressive renal failure. So basically, suppose a patient is presenting to us with high levels of creatinine, edema, and uremia, right? So this will tell us that within days to weeks that this patient has a sudden rise in creatinine levels and sudden decrease in urine output, tells us that the patient has rapidly evolved into renal failure. Okay, so there are certain causes of renal failure that we need to know. So post-renal can be detected easily by USG. Renal cause has again three causes. HUS, that is hemolytic uremic syndrome. We'll see this HUS and all these entities separately in different videos. But here I'm just telling you the causes of RPRF so that you can know how to differentiate. Okay, for now you need to remember that HUS has decreased hemoglobin because of hemolysis, and platelet count is also decreased. Okay, so whenever the patient does not have this, you can easily rule out HUS. So first, by getting a normal USG, we ruled out a post-renal cause. Second, by getting normal hemoglobin and platelet count, we ruled out HUS. Okay, now one more cause here is acute tubular interstitial nephritis. In acute tubular interstitial nephritis, hematuria and hypertension is not seen. Okay, because in this tubular interstitial nephritis, the glomerulus is not affected, renin is not released, and that is why we don't get hypertension there. Now, pre-renal cause is when there is dehydration or the patient has decreased volume, decreased blood supply to the kidneys, which cause the renal failure. Fine. So ultimately, if you want to rule out a pre-renal cause, the pre-renal cause of renal failure generally improves after giving fluids for in 24 hours. Okay, but if it is not improving even after giving fluids, you need to think about a renal cause. Okay, so this is how you can differentiate between different causes of RPRF and ultimately getting into a provisional diagnosis in your mind of RPGN. Okay, now I want to show you a picture. See, this is how a crescent will look like. Okay, and this is the light microscopy picture of RPGN. Okay, now how a patient will present. The patient will present with severe oliguria plus nephritic syndrome. Okay, so nephritic syndrome basically has hematuria and hypertension. Okay, so let us see a classical history. A patient who is normal 10 to 15 days back is now started to having decreased urine output, which is reddish in color and with facial puffiness. Examination shows that blood pressure is high, 160/100. The CBC is normal. The creatinine is 6.5, which is raised, and urea is 200 milligram per microliter, which is also raised. USG is normal sized, and urine output is nil. Sensorium is normal. Okay, so first, because USG is normal, I can easily rule out post-renal cause. It cannot be post-renal. Fine, because CBC is normal, I can rule out HUS, that is hemolytic uremic syndrome. Fine, hemolytic uremic syndrome is ruled out. Now, talking about acute tubulointerstitial nephritis, because in this case we have hematuria and blood pressure is also raised, tubular interstitial cause is less likely. Fine, so that is also gone. Now pre-renal can be ruled out by giving fluids, because fluids will basically improve the condition, but if the patient is not responding to fluids, this is more of a RPGN. Okay, now basically you need to remember that first, before giving specific treatment or before taking up the patient for biopsy, we need to manage the complications, and we need to stabilize the patient. So what we need to look out for first is hyperkalemia. Hyperkalemia is a complication that we can usually see whenever there is renal failure, because the kidneys cannot excrete potassium, and this hypokalemia can cause arrhythmias and ultimately cardiac arrest. Okay. Secondly, we need to look out for acidosis, and by ordering arterial blood gas, we can look out for acidosis and treat by giving bicarb. Okay. Now look for intravascular volume overload. Now basically, because this patient is having hypertension, there are chances that the patient might have intravascular volume overload. This will present as pulmonary edema. So by auscultating a patient or by taking a chest x-ray, you can know whether the patient has pulmonary edema or not. Okay, and if the patient is showing any uremic symptoms like pruritus, halitosis, pericarditis, gastritis or encephalopathy, you can go for dialysis. Okay, now before going and taking a biopsy, we need to dialyze the patient, because there can be bleeding if we directly take up the patient for this biopsy. Okay, now what are we going to see in the biopsy? So the crescent formation. Now why are these crescents formed? The crescents are formed because of proliferation of parietal epithelium and fibrosis. I have a picture here. So first of all, we need to orient about what is a normal glomerulus composed of. So this here is endothelium. This is the mesangial cells. This is a capillary loop in which you can see RBCs. Okay, this here bluish colored line that you see passing is glomerular basement membrane. Here you see are podocytes, also known as visceral epithelium. The space that you are seeing is urinary space, and ultimately we have parietal epithelium. Okay, so these blue color cells are mesangial cells, supporting cells. Fine. So the crescent is because of proliferation of parietal cells and fibrosis is laid. Okay, so that is it. Now talking about electron microscopy, we see rupture of glomerular basement membrane. So this rupture explains us that this rupture has allowed certain proteins, certain cytokines and certain other factors which has caused this crescent to form. Okay, so cytokines, procoagulant factors and fibrin. This all things cause crescent formation. Now moving on to types of RPGN. So the types of RPGN are basically 5 types, but we will read only 3. Okay, so type 1 RPGN is Goodpasture disease. So the Goodpasture disease is when the antibodies in the patient's blood are directed to the glomerular basement membrane. So your GBM acts like an antigen and your antibodies are directed to it. Okay, so immunofluorescence shows classical linear deposits of IgG and C3. This is a very important question and you guys have to remember this. Okay, and I will recommend that you see a photo of linear deposits of IgG and C3 on immunofluorescence. Okay, so now why here linear deposits? Okay, now there is a basic concept here that you need to remember. See, if this is GBM, okay, and if my antibodies are directed to it, then my antibodies will be directed diffusely, right? While in other cases, my antigen is in the blood and antibody is also in the blood, so this both will come here and they will be deposited. Okay, so it won't be diffuse. So diffuse, you will get a granular pattern. You will get a linear pattern. Okay, you will get a linear pattern because obviously diffuse antibody is diffusely attached to the GBM. While here you can see that it is not diffuse because the antigen antibody complexes are formed in the blood itself, so they won't be diffusely deposited in the GBM. Okay, so here you get a granular pattern. Okay, now these antibodies are also sometimes cross react with the collagen of lungs, because collagen type 4 is also found in lung basement membrane. That is why the patient also has hemoptysis. Okay, now what is the antigen that we are talking about here? Okay, the antigen is collagen type 4 alpha 3 chain. Type 4 alpha 3 chain. This is an important question. Okay, and that was all about the type 1. Okay, Goodpasture disease, linear deposits, and alpha 3 chain. Okay, now coming to type 2. The type 2 RPGN is immune complex mediated. So obviously, what type of pattern will we got? Granular pattern. Okay, so granular pattern of immunofluorescence, and you need to remember the causes: IgA nephropathy, Henoch-Scan non-purpura, SLE, and PIGN. Okay, now type 3. Type 3 is also known as pauciimmune because of pauci means few, means immune complex is not deposited in this type of RPGN. Okay, so immunofluorescence will not show any deposits. Now in this type 3 we have ANCA positive. Okay, that is NCA positive, anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibody positive. It is seen in Wegener's, granulomatosis, systemic vasculitis, Churg-Strauss syndrome, and most common RPGN is type 3 RPGN. Okay, so what are the causes of type 3? Wegener's, systemic vasculitis, and Churg-Strauss syndrome. Okay, and that was all about rapidly progressive glomerular nephritis.